Lindsay Musgrove has always remained in people's memories as a kind and caring person. Her journey began with earning a biology degree from Quinnipiac University in 2012. Continuing her education, she obtained her nursing license 2 years later, studying at the Institute of Health at Massachusetts General Hospital. During her studies, Lindsay demonstrated excellent academic performance and was a member of the Sigma Theta Tau International Honor Society of Nursing. Her thesis was dedicated to researching the impact of prenatal care on birth outcomes. While studying, she volunteered at a local shelter for pregnant women, where she conducted consultations and educational seminars about the importance of prenatal care. Her sincerity in helping others manifested in the smallest details. One of the shelter's residents later recalled, "One cold day, Lindsay noticed I was freezing and the next morning brought me a warm sweater." Such small gestures of kindness were natural for her, she did them without even thinking about it. Although Lindsay publicly demonstrated dedication to her work, entries found in her personal diary revealed feelings of burnout and irritation from constant emotional strain. "Sometimes I feel like I'm giving too much and only getting new demands in return," she wrote. Lindsay dedicated her professional career to helping others, working as a midwife at Massachusetts General Hospital. Her first year at the hospital demonstrated her commitment to the profession. She often stayed after her shift to support patients in difficult cases, and her approach to calming laboring mothers received recognition among colleagues. According to the hospital profile, Lindsay Musgrove had one of the highest rates of successful natural births in the department. 82% of all deliveries she attended proceeded without medical intervention. In 2020, she received the Excellence in Patient Care Award from Massachusetts General Hospital for developing a support protocol for laboring mothers with anxiety disorders. In the December 2022 issue of the hospital newsletter, Lindsay shared her plans to write a book about natural childbirth and the importance of emotional support during labor. She managed to complete the first chapter, where she described her experience in building trust between midwife and laboring mother. Several of her patients publicly thanked her on the hospital's social media. In particular, in December 2021, one mother wrote, "Nurse Musgrove was by my side for 18 hours during my difficult labor. Her calmness and professionalism helped me get through this trial." In March 2022, Lindsay successfully implemented a childbirth preparation program for Spanish-speaking patients, which significantly improved the accessibility of prenatal education for this group. According to official hospital data, the program reached over 50 families in its first 3 months of operation. She quickly established herself as a dedicated professional whom colleagues valued for collaboration. Please subscribe to my channel, and I'll bring you more videos featuring the most shocking and true crime stories. At Massachusetts General Hospital, Lindsay was known as the "Angel of the Labor Ward." Her colleagues recall an instance when she spent 36 hours with a single mother during difficult labor, refusing to go home even after her shift ended. She created special photo albums for newborns, which she gave to each family, and organized a support group for mothers with premature births. However, drafts of unfinished resignation letters were found on her work computer. In one of them, dated December 2022, she wrote, "I help other women become mothers, but I feel like the worst mother in the world myself. Every time I see a happy mother with her newborn, I'm overwhelmed with guilt for not feeling the same happiness with my own children." Her exceptional attention to detail and compassion made her a favorite nurse among patients, who often requested her assistance for subsequent deliveries. Her ability to calm anxious parents and guide them through the birthing process was truly exceptional. Behind the facade of professionalism lay a darker side of Lindsay's character. Her relentless perfectionism became a toxic trait. She could explode over the smallest mistake by a junior nurse, turning work shifts into an emotional battleground. Junior staff began avoiding shared shifts with her, whispering about her sudden outbursts of anger. This tension only intensified her internal conflict between striving for perfection and inability to control her own emotions. Lindsay Musgrove's personal life took on new meaning in 2016 when she married Patrick Clancy, a software engineer. The following year, the couple rejoiced in the birth of their daughter Cora. The girl grew up to be a loving older sister who dreamed of becoming a doctor and a mother. In 2019, the family welcomed their second child, Dawson, a bright and charismatic boy whose laughter and infectious smile lit up every room. In 2022, their third baby, Callan, was born, a calm and happy child whom the parents affectionately called Happy Callan. Although according to neighbors, there were days when loud screams could be heard from the Clancy house. Lindsay could react sharply to children's mischief, especially when exhausted. The family settled in a beautiful house in Duxbury, Massachusetts. Duxbury is a coastal town with a population of about 16,000 residents, located 35 miles from Boston. Their house was located in the Bay Farm Road area, a quiet suburb with high safety ratings and excellent schools. According to the local police department, this area had the lowest crime rate in the town in 2022. The family was actively involved in community life. Lindsay was a member of the local mothers support group, Duxbury Moms, where she regularly shared experiences with other parents. Patrick worked remotely for a technology company, which allowed him to spend more time with family. However, some members of Duxbury Moms noticed warning signs. Lindsay often posted idealized photos on social media, but during meetings could suddenly burst into tears or abruptly leave without explanation. Several mothers confessed to investigators that they noticed her unstable emotional state but didn't want to interfere, considering it a manifestation of ordinary postpartum fatigue. The children attended Chandler Elementary School, one of the best elementary schools in Plymouth County. Cora was an excellent student in kindergarten and participated in the school choir. The whole family could often be seen together at school events. Their two-story colonial house on Bay Farm Road, purchased for $500,000, seemed the embodiment of the American dream. A white fence framed the well-maintained lawn where children spent summer days playing hide-and-seek and blowing bubbles. Lindsay created a special corner for each child, for Cora, a small garden table for tea parties with dolls, for Dawson, a playground with toy trucks, and for little Callan, a cozy swing under the old maple tree. For Halloween 2022, she handmade costumes for the whole family based on Alice in Wonderland. Photos of their celebration gathered hundreds of likes on social media. But behind the closed doors of this perfect home, a different story unfolded. In the garage, among boxes of Christmas decorations, police found a notebook where Lindsay described her panic attacks and feelings of confinement. "This house suffocates me. Every corner reminds me of duties I can't perform perfectly. Even children's laughter sometimes sounds like an accusation." In the backyard, Lindsay created a cozy family garden where she grew tomatoes and cucumbers with Cora. The girl proudly showed guests her first grown vegetables. For Christmas 2022, Lindsay handcrafted a holiday wreath from pine branches for the front door. This decoration is still kept by Patrick as one of the last symbols of their once happy family life. To friends and relatives, Lindsay and Patrick's marriage was the embodiment of perfect relationships. Neighbors often saw them cooking dinner together in the backyard, laughing at each other's jokes. Patrick had a habit of leaving small love notes on the bathroom mirror, and Lindsay would send him photos of the children with funny captions every morning. On Valentine's Day 2022, she arranged a surprise romantic dinner, decorating the entire living room with red balloons and candles. However, her personal diary, found after the tragedy, revealed another side of their relationship. "Patrick only sees my smile but doesn't notice how I cry in the shower every evening," she wrote in August 2022. "I try to be the perfect wife, but I feel like it's just a role in a play that never ends." Patrick was a devoted father to Cora, Dawson, and Callan, spending much time with the children in various games in the yard. For Lindsay, the children became her life's meaning. She considered motherhood the most rewarding experience. The walls of their house were decorated with children's photographs, and social media was filled with snapshots of happy family moments. She often wrote about her gratitude, calling herself the happiest mom in the world. In her personal diary, entries were found about jealousy towards Patrick's career success and resentment that he could work from home while she had to care for the children. He doesn't understand what exhaustion it is to be constantly tied to home, she wrote in September 2022. However, after the births of Cora and Dawson, Lindsay began to feel emotional overload. Motherhood proved to be a challenging trial, although with Callan's birth the situation seemed better. She focused on physical exercise, proper nutrition, and rest. Later, Lindsay developed anxiety about returning to work after maternity leave. According to CDC statistics, up to 20% of women suffer from postpartum depression. In Massachusetts, this figure was 18.7% in 2022. In Lindsay's case, experts found significant deficiencies in the mental health monitoring system. Dr. Margaret Spinelli, a leading specialist in perinatal psychiatry, noted during the hearing, prescribing 13 different psychotropic medications over 4 months without proper monitoring is a serious violation of treatment protocols. According to medical records, Lindsay visited 8 different specialists in the 3 months before the tragedy. None of them had a complete picture of her treatment. After this case, the Massachusetts Department of Health implemented a new coordination system between specialists working with mothers showing symptoms of depression. In December 2022, Lindsay's anxiety scores on the Edinburgh Postnatal Depression Scale reached a critical level of 19 out of 20 possible points, which required immediate hospitalization. Attempts to balance motherhood and career evolved into an exhausting struggle that was destroying Lindsay from within. Desperately trying to maintain control over her life, she bounced between different therapists, accumulating prescriptions for medications like saving talismans. By September 2022, her anxiety had grown into real terror. She could barely perform the simplest daily tasks. Even turning to the Center for Women's Behavioral Health in Providence became another bitter disappointment. Instead of help, she received yet another referral without a specific diagnosis. Police investigation revealed that Lindsay was hiding some of her prescribed medications from her husband, storing them in a shoebox in the garage. Her phone contained search history about lethal doses of various medications, dating back to October 2022. She also regularly visited online forums where she anonymously wrote about her aversion to motherhood. The first day of 2023 became a turning point. Lindsay confessed to her husband about thoughts of harming herself and the children. She voluntarily admitted herself to McLean Hospital for mental health treatment, where she spent 5 days. Upon discharge, doctors believed she posed no threat to herself or others. Throughout January, it seemed Lindsay's condition was improving. The family visited museums and restaurants, and she herself spoke about the absence of suicidal thoughts. Her mother noticed a more optimistic tone in her messages. However, no one knew the true depth of her suffering. January 23, 2023, began as an ordinary day. Lindsay took the children to the doctor for a routine checkup, including Cora for a pediatrician visit. Returning home, Lindsay spent time with the children, playing with them in the snow. She took several photos of these happy moments and sent them to Patrick and her mother, creating the impression of an ordinary family day. Patrick was working from home that day, in the basement. Around 4 p.m., after Lindsay returned from the walk with the children, she began searching Google for information about children's Miralax. She then checked Apple Maps for the drive time to 3V restaurant near Kingston. She also browsed the CVS Pharmacy website, called their Kingston location, and inquired about the availability of children's Miralax. Later, a series of photographs were found on her phone from that same day, happy moments captured just an hour before the tragedy. In the photos, the children were playing carefree in the snow, their laughter seemingly coming alive in the images. In the last frame, 5-year-old Cora was tenderly holding little Callan while Dawson was diligently trying to build his first snowman. Later, Lindsay sent a message to Patrick in the basement, "Maybe we should order food from 3V? I haven't cooked anything. It's been a long day." Although the 3V restaurant was farther than their usual delivery places, Patrick agreed to look at the menu. He chose scallop and pork risotto, while Lindsay selected the Mediterranean Nourish bowl. At 5:10 p.m., Lindsay called the restaurant and placed the order, listing Patrick as the person who would pick it up. At 5:15 p.m., Patrick left the house, and Lindsay reminded him via message to pick up medicine for the children at CVS. Surveillance cameras recorded his arrival at the pharmacy at 5:32 p.m. Not receiving a response from Lindsay about the desired brand of medicine, he called her. Their conversation lasted 14 minutes, and although it seemed normal, Patrick later recalled feeling that Lindsay was occupied with something during the call. When Patrick returned home at 6 p.m. with dinner and medicine, he was met with an eerie silence. The usually noisy house was devoid of any sounds from his wife or children. Gripped by anxiety, he tried calling Lindsay at 6:09 p.m., but to no avail. With growing concern, Patrick climbed the stairs to the master bedroom. The doors were locked, which was unusual as Lindsay had never done this before. Despite all attempts, the lock wouldn't yield. After a prolonged struggle with the door, he managed to open it, and a horrific scene lay before him. There were blood stains on the floor and windowsill, and a bloody knife lay on Lindsay's nightstand. Looking out the window, Patrick saw Lindsay lying on the ground in the yard. He immediately called 911 and ran to her. Lindsay was conscious but barely responsive, her body covered in blood, with cuts visible on her neck and wrists. When Patrick asked, "What have you done?" she responded in a detached voice that she had tried to end her life and jumped from the window. When he asked about the children, Lindsay coldly replied, "In the basement." Patrick stayed with Lindsay outside until police and medics arrived, continuing his conversation with the 911 dispatcher. When paramedics began treating Lindsay, he went to look for the children. Descending into the basement, he called out to them, but there was no response. Suddenly, the dispatcher heard an agonized scream. In the basement, Patrick found his 3 children, Cora, Callan, and Dawson, unconscious on the floor, each with an exercise band tightly wrapped around their neck. In despair, Patrick begged the children to wake up and breathe, calling for the police officers who were upstairs with Lindsay. When officers came down, they witnessed a horrific scene, 3 innocent children lying lifeless on the cold floor. "She killed the children," Patrick uttered, realizing the unthinkable act of his wife. 5-year-old Cora and 3-year-old Dawson were pronounced dead at the scene. 7-month-old Callan still showed signs of life, but his injuries were extremely severe. Despite all efforts of the medical team, little Callan died several days later in the hospital. His father was by his side, holding his son during his last breaths. The tragic events that unfolded in less than 20 minutes destroyed Patrick's world, leaving him in deep grief and with countless unanswered questions. Lindsay was transported to Boston Children's Hospital for treatment of injuries sustained after falling 20 feet during her suicide attempt. She was charged with 3 counts of murder, 3 counts of strangulation, and 3 counts of assault with a dangerous weapon. A few days after the tragedy, Patrick Clancy shared his feelings on the GoFundMe page created to support his family. The community responded with incredible support. Within the first 24 hours, more than 10,000 people made donations, many leaving touching messages of support. The local elementary school created a memorial garden in memory of Cora, Dawson, and Callan, where their favorite flowers, yellow daffodils, are planted each spring. Each flower bush has a plaque with the child's name and their favorite quote from children's books. Despite incredible pain and shock, he showed love and forgiveness toward his wife. The fundraising campaign for Cora, Dawson, and Callan's funeral received significant public response, raising over $1 million. However, controversies arose regarding the possible use of funds for Lindsay's defense. Her lawyers later clarified that their services were being paid for by Lindsay's parents, not by the campaign funds. On February 3, 2023, during a brief hearing in Plymouth District Court, the judge granted Lindsay's attorney's request to waive security protocols at Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston for a forensic psychiatrist to examine her for symptoms of postpartum depression. Attorneys argued that due to self-inflicted injuries, her mobility was extremely limited, and she posed no threat to others. The defense emphasized the issue of overmedication. According to the attorney, Lindsay was taking 13 different medications over 4 months to treat mood disorders, anxiety, and psychosis, including Klonopin, Valium, Ativan, Zoloft, amitriptyline, Octaline, mirtazapine, Prozac, mood stabilizers Lamictal and Seroquel, as well as buspirone, hydroxyzine, and Ambien. One of the side effects of such excessive medication could have been suicidal and homicidal ideation. The Plymouth County prosecutor presented her actions as being carried out with particular cruelty, questioning the defense's claims about the role of postpartum mental state and prescribed medications in the commission of the murders. During the court hearing, Lindsay silently observed the proceedings through a monitor from her hospital room when a not guilty plea was entered on her behalf. Lindsay Clancy's killing of her children is classified as filicide, the intentional killing of one's own offspring. According to Dr. Philip Resnick, a psychiatrist specializing in filicide studies, there are 5 main reasons for such a crime: altruism, when parents believe they are saving children from suffering; acute psychosis, unwanted child, physical abuse, and spousal revenge. During the investigation, a diary entry from October 25, 2022, was found on Lindsay's phone. In it, she expressed frustration and resentment toward Cora and Dawson, noting that she sometimes felt antipathy toward them because they prevented her from treating baby Callan as a firstborn. For days before the murders, she searched the internet for information about treating sociopathy and methods of killing. At a hearing in October 2023, toxicological analysis revealed the presence of antidepressants, antipsychotics, sedatives, and anticonvulsants in her system at therapeutic doses. The prosecution insisted that the murders were premeditated, and the presence of medications did not influence her actions. The Lindsay Clancy case sparked a national discussion about maternal mental health. According to the Boston Globe, within a month of the tragedy, 15 states initiated reviews of postpartum depression monitoring protocols. Massachusetts General Hospital implemented mandatory mental health screening for all new mothers. The Clancy Children's Memorial Fund was established, raising $1.2 million for postpartum disorder research. In March 2023, the Massachusetts Senate passed the Cora, Dawson, and Callan Act, mandating insurance coverage for postpartum depression treatment and establishing a unified monitoring system for prescribed psychotropic medications. In 2024, Patrick Clancy ran the Boston Marathon in honor of his children, raising funds for Boston Children's Hospital. On his running shirt were printed the children's names and the touching phrase "Running for Angels." When he crossed the finish line holding photos of Cora, Dawson, and Callan, hundreds of spectators, including many strangers, couldn't hold back their tears. Meanwhile, Lindsay, who awaits trial for the murder of her children, is receiving treatment at Duxbury Hospital. It is reported that she remains permanently paralyzed. I can't wait to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments what you think about this case. And if you enjoy deep dives into true crime, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next story. Until next time, friends.